Terry McLaurin from the Redskins, 29-year-old receiver. He's 29, right? Or is he 27?
29. He'll be 30 in a month.
Okay, he'll be 30 in a month. And was surprised he was that old. And he is looking for a new contract. Now he wants to be traded. What are you getting, information are you getting from Washington?
They don't intend to trade him. I'd still be surprised if it happened, but if you've been around Terry McLaurin at all, and you know the type of person he is, the type of leader he is, how much he's invested in that franchise, it'd take a high level of frustration for him to get to a point where he requests a trade. And so you see, he tried holding out, then he tried reporting. He's done what he can to try to create movement there. They went over a month without talking, the Commanders and McLaurin's camp. Then, near the start of training camp, they reconvened. There wasn't much movement. I think this is sort of more than anything about, a disagreement on value. And I don't think it's Dan Quinn pulling the strings on this one. I think it's more, and look, I think with new ownership there, analytics are more involved than they have been in the past, and contracts, and how you pay certain guys at certain ages and everything else. And so it seems like a really bizarre one because they finally got it turned around, and this guy is so central to everything, and this guy endured so much, from the quarterbacking to the ownership situation to like even the change of the nickname and all that different stuff. He was really a bellwether through all of it. And now, he's going into a contract year and he can't get a market deal. What he's looking for, I think he's looking for something in the neighborhood of what DK Metcalf got, which was 33 million per in new money. And for one reason or another, the Commanders haven't been willing to go there, either on the total number or the guarantees. So, I think they eventually get something done, but obviously Terry's very, very frustrated with where things are.
Okay. What is the deal with the analytics? I mean, if they're not serving the team, there is using analytics as a boost, but just being married to them, they take entirely the human element out of it, which doesn't seem wise.
Well, well.
Why pay a GM if you're just going to use AI?
You guys know who, and Josh Harris has been a fantastic owner for the Commanders, but the other teams the other team that he owns, right?
No, I don't remember all the time. Okay, he owns the Sixers.
And like the Sixers have done a lot of this, right? Like where like the advanced analytics, everything else. I think it's just, it plays into the way you invest your money, and look, like I think that there's like some level of influence there on, are you willing to pay guys of a certain age, and again, this is me putting pieces together, but are you willing to pay guys of a certain age at a certain level? And what's the history of guys at certain positions at certain ages? Now, I said to you guys last week, like, I think Terry, because of his work ethic, because of like the demonstrated durability, and because of his like football IQ, this is a guy who's going to last, And so even if he's not, a 1,200, 1,300 yard receiver in 2 or 3 years, I still think he's going to be like a good player. Like I think he's going to be able to reinvent himself because he's not somebody who's overly reliant on his physical gifts. But there is some history of, and we've gone over it with Stephon Diggs, right? There is some history of guys at that position in their 30s, and how they can go the wrong way. I'd put this guy again more in the category of a Larry Fitzgerald who reinvented himself like 2 different times, and was able to remain effective, into his late 30s. But obviously, there's a disagreement on value there.
All right, Bert, McLaurin isn't the only prominent hold-in across the league. I watched the Dallas situation, and I watched the situation in Cincinnati, and I have no idea what the teams are thinking. They know how good those players are. They know their value considering what Myles Garrett just got and TJ Watt just got. I don't understand the thinking on either side.
Yeah, so the Micah Parsons thing is just weird. And, I think there was a deal to be done a year ago when the top of the market for edge rushers was still, I think at that point, Nick Bosa was still the highest paid, right, guy, and he was at 34. And now the highest paid guy is at 41. That's TJ Watt. Myles Garrett's at 40. And I think what happens with these teams, this is probably happening with the receivers too, which relates to McLaurin, is you had these superstars that signed these big deals. And I think teams were kind of waiting for the market to prove that those deals were outliers. And then that wasn't the case. Like the Cowboys were waiting. The Cowboys went through this exact situation last year where they were waiting for something to show that the Justin Jefferson deal was an outlier at 35.
It's crazy.
And they wind up having to sign CD Lamb at 34 in the end.
They waited on Dak Prescott, and it cost them $100 million too. What is Jerry's thinking? I don't understand any of this.
And I do think, like, if you listen to Steven, if you listen to Stephen Jones talk about it, there is a reality to, well, the player has to be willing to do it too. The thing is, I think with the problem the Cowboys have had is like, it's like if we're going to do the deal early, then we're going to want a discount, and the player will say no. I'm like, I want to do something fair, and then you get into the stare down, and then you wait and wait and wait, and inevitably, what's going to happen when you wait? When you wait like that, other deals are going to get done, and it's happened with the edge rushers. It happened, and it wasn't just at the top of the market, guys. It was. Of course, you got Myles who got 40, and then you got TJ Watt who got 41. But then even like at a level below Micah, and this affects the Trey Hendrickson thing, you have Max Crosby now is in the mid-30s. You have Danielle Hunter in Houston is now in the mid-30s. So like you can't tell Micah Parsons that he's not worth like $40 million a year now. And even Trey Hendrickson, like you might be able to tell Trey Hendrickson, yeah, you're not TJ Watt or Micah Parsons, but can you tell him you're not Max Crosby or Danielle Hunter when the guy's had 35 sacks the last 2 years? It's a really tough sell for a player.
Okay, so what is there a real salary cap problem? Like if you're a team and you're Dallas and you want to keep Parsons and Lamb and Prescott, how much does that really tie your hands? How much is the cap really a factor in that, and how much is the owner just being cheap?
Well, it depends on how many players you have that are like that.
No, but it seems like there's a million ways to manipulate the cap. Like it's not a hard cap like like hockey.
So there are what you have to commit to doing. There are two things you have to commit to doing though, and I think we've seen this in a few different places. I'll give you guys a couple examples of it. But what if you're going over the cap, if you're spending cash over cap. It means two things. Number one, you have to have an owner who's willing to write those checks, right? Mm-hmm. You have to have an owner who's willing to spend above the salary cap. And that means, again, the Eagles have done this for years. That means money coming out of the owner's pocket, and that affects cash flow, with the football team. So you have to have that. And number two, you like every 4 or 5 years, whatever that number, you're probably going to have to go through a reset. So the Niners are going through that this year where they're carrying, I think it's over 92, it's like 93 million in dead money. The Bills went through it last year. The Rams went through it the year before that.
It's funny though, because all those teams were successful.
And you know what it is though, is you have to keep drafting well, right?
Right.
Like, so if you have this void on your roster, like Buffalo, if you have this void on your roster where there's $75 million on a $250 million salary cap that's ate up by players that are not on your team, that means you have to have cheap talent that's going to take those spots and make up for the money that's not allocated there, right? So for Buffalo got rid of all those guys, right? Like so Steph Diggs, Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, Tre'Davious White, all these guys that were like core players of their build. Tremaine Edmonds left. So how do they make up for it? Well, Greg Rousseau, Khalil Shakir, Terrell Bernard, Christian Benford, and now all those guys are on new deals, right? James Cook. You have to draft well. What do the Rams do? Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams. And whether the Niners make it work this year or not is going to be on guys like Mikael Williams and Alfred Collins. Like that's the trick. Is you have to keep drafting well. That's what the Eagles have done, is you have to keep putting cheap young talent in your roster. So when you do have to reset it, you're not that's how the Patriots got pinched. Is like they were able to do that effectively for a while, and then eventually they didn't. The poor drafting caught up with them. So that's really how you manipulate it. And yeah, the salary cap is real, but there are ways to mess with it.
So my point is, Jerry Jones could get these deals done much easier than he is.
100%.
Yeah. He's not hamstringing the franchise by keeping guys that they've drafted and developed.
No, I mean, I think it's a red hit. Now, that doesn't mean, like, when you pay your quarterback, you are probably you're gonna have to win with a little bit less.
Sure.
Like Brock Purdy's in a different environment now than he has been the last couple of years, right? Because now going forward, they're not going to be able to be quite as aggressive in building around him as they have been.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where your quarterback has to really prove himself. Is like, okay, like now you're going to have to make up for the fact that maybe we don't have depth on the offensive line the way we did before, or our third receiver is our 5th round pick. You know what I mean? Like in his second year. So you have to make up for it. But no, I mean, these guys all have the cash. I mean, it's like a huge part of the equation is the cash part of it. It's can you keep winning in that environment that becomes the question. But it's if you're willing to spend the cash and you draft well enough, it's doable. Buffalo and the Rams have shown that the last couple of years, and I think the Niners will probably show it this year.
It's just interesting when a player is drafted and developed and becomes a star. It doesn't seem like there's anything that would be prohibitive for you keeping those guys. Like that if you draft and develop, you're always going to be good. Is my point.
Right.
That there's
you're always going to have a baseline of young talent on your roster that is going to be able to make up for whatever dead cap you're carrying.
Right. Like, I understand you can't go crazy in free agency, but keeping your own guys always seems to be like an option. Like, that's not spending the money.
Going crazy in free agency, we've been over this before.
No, it's not. It's not a wise thing to do. But that's like, you can't do that. Like, we're up against the cap. I can't get this piece in free agency.
Right. Yeah.
But when it's keeping your own players, I always get a strange feeling when the owners are like, well, we can't keep this. Well, you could. Like, you could keep him. You know,
the Niners and Bills are great examples of it. How many outside free agents are part of the Niners core or have been part of the Niners core over the last 7 or 8 years? How many guys?
I'm assuming not many.
I mean, like Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, like when they had Armstead and Buckner, Trent Williams came from the outside, but Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey came from the outside, Brock Purdy. Like most of their core has been from the inside. I mean, Buffalo, almost their entire core has been guys that they drafted and developed. So, yeah, I mean, you should be able, like, that's the most tried and true way to win. Guys who are free agents, and I mean, if you guys have seen the list of free agents from just last year, right? Like the guys who are free agents last year that signed the big deals. I mean, it's a graveyard of contracts, like it's. I mean, I tried to say this to people in March when people were like, "Oh, you can we can just go buy a team." It's like, no, you can't. Like those players are all available for a reason.
If you like that clip, and how could you not? Check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here. Point slightly up and to the left. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. Point slightly down and to the left. And for the latest from the Sports Hub, download at 985thesportshub.com.